Morning, everyone. Thank you for waiting for the webinar to start. We're just going to give it a minute or so more just to allow everyone to join, and then we will get started. In the meantime, I will share my screen so that you can see our presentation this morning. Okay, good morning. I will start introducing this webinar this morning and introducing myself and our amazing ambassadors. And I can see a couple more people kind of coming into the waiting room, so I will let everyone in as and when. But you guys that have been waiting, let's get started for you. So welcome to this morning's webinar. I belong in software. My name is Jasmine, and I work at an organisation called the National Centre for Computing Education, which is part of STEM learning, which is what you can see behind me here. And my job is basically to do lots of cool events like this and in-person events all over the country to get young people like yourselves excited about computing and excited about jobs in technology, which is really exciting. But I'm joined today by three people that actually do the tech and work within the technology industry in using software, making software, and they are going to be telling us about their jobs, how they got there, what they do, and what sort of skills they use. And then we will have loads of time for questions at the end. You've got your cameras and mics off, but we absolutely do still want to hear from you. So please do pop any questions you've got in the chat. If you're watching from a classroom or an assembly, you can just pop your hand up. And your teacher can pop your questions in the chat for you. Just remember that everything you pop in there can be seen by everyone. So don't put anything in there that's kind of personal that you don't want everyone to see. But yeah, you don't need to wait for the end. As soon as you've got a question, get it in the chat and then we will answer as many as we can towards the end of this webinar. But I'm not the interesting person here. These amazing ambassadors are the interesting people. So we will hand over to them. And I would like to start off with you, Simia. Over to you.
Thank you, Jasmine. And hello, everyone. Really excited to be here and talk a bit about what I do. So, my name is Soumya, like Jasmine said, and I am a senior software engineer at Deutsche Bank. So, just a bit about if you're wondering what am I doing at a bank as an engineer. So, Deutsche Bank is kind of this really, really big German bank. And of course, in quite a few ways, it is similar to the banks like you would see down the street, like a Barclays or an HSBC. But then banks also do a lot more than what we see them doing. For example, depositing money or withdrawing money and getting loans, etc. Banks actually work with really, really big companies and governments as well. So you might later, as you grow up, you might go on to hear terms like investment banking and corporate banking, etc. So I work in an area called an investment bank. And very specifically, the area that I work in at this bank is to do with taxes. So you all have heard of taxes, and in fact, you might have heard your parents or someone in the family or some adult around you talk about how they need to file in their taxes. So it's not just us individuals who are working, who have a salary, that we have to pay a part of our salary to the government to help fund schools, hospitals, etc. Even big companies, they need to pay taxes as well. And the rules for paying taxes are very, very different across different countries that you go to, and it depends on whether you're a company, you're an individual, what kind of a job you have. It can get really, really complex. So I work in an area that builds software so that it can become easy for the tax experts that who work in the bank to help clients, and clients could be people like you and me, or they could be big businesses, to be able to file in the correct taxes to the government of whichever country they're supposed to give their taxes to. So, and fun fact, you might have all heard of AI. And because when it comes to taxes, we talk a lot about documents. So there are lots and lots of forms that one might need to fill when it comes to filing taxes. So we are also trying to see if AI can help us figure out, okay, if I get some kind of a form, which country does it belong to? So, okay, someone wants to pay a tax. Is it for France? Is it for Germany? Is it for UK, etc.? So this is where we have also introduced AI in our day-to-day work, but that was broadly about the area I work in. What do I do as an individual? I, of course, I'm a part of a really, really big team. And as a part of my role, uh, given that I'm a software engineer, one aspect of it, of course, is to write code. But as a senior software engineer, now I also have the responsibility to mentor juniors, and I also have the opportunity to speak directly to the business. And business here includes tax experts who kind of work with these governments of different countries and make sure that people are filing the right taxes and not doing anything fishy there. So I sit with them and we talk about, okay, if they want to use AI to help them with all this tax work, what kind of features are they looking for in a software? What do they want our software to be able to do to help them achieve what they want? So in fact, half of my day is actually spent just talking to people. And then the other kinds of meetings that I have is talking with maybe my fellow engineers to sit down and talk about, okay, so this is what business wants us to do, and this is how we can go about designing a software. So when it comes to writing software, it's not just about writing code. We actually need to sit and design it, and we need to think about things like, okay, where am I going to store all the data that's coming in? What kind of database do I need? What should the screen look like? So that is something called user interface or user experience. And also, as more and more people start to use it, I want to make sure that my software does not crash. So I need to design it in a way where it is resilient. So these are the kinds of discussions that we have in our meetings. And then once we have made a decision, I work as a part of a team that writes code to build this kind of software. Now, very quickly to touch on how did I end up becoming a software engineer? I did computer science at university. And while I was in my third year, oh, sorry, just after my third year, I decided to do a summer internship where you could join a company and spend 2 or 3 months actually working on a project with the people working there. So I interned as a software engineer at my current company, and they were very happy with my role. So they said, actually, we would like you to join us full time once you graduate from university. So I joined them on the graduate program. And then it's been, I think, a little over 6 years where I worked around a few different projects, mainly in software engineering and machine learning and AI, and here I am. So now, software engineers are not all about just sitting and writing code and sitting in front of a screen all day. I do have hobbies as well, which take me away from the screen. So um, one of my most favorite things to do is badminton. I play badminton with my friends over the weekend. In fact, we've got a huge group at work as well. And we recently had a badminton tournament in our company where more than 100 people joined. I unfortunately got knocked out in the semifinals, so didn't get a medal. But it's fun. I mean, the whole point is to have fun, make new friends, and meet new people. So we do have fun at work as well. I also like crosswords, so that's something I like to start my mornings with. And I really, really love to go on very long walks, maybe just by the riverside, and if the weather allows. I think that is a little drawback of living in London. It often rains, so sometimes I cannot go on a walk when I want to, but that is all about me.
Amazing. Thank you, Soumya. So nice to hear about your story and your amazing job. Um, and yeah, hear a little bit more about kind of how you use software in your role. And it's interesting to hear about, software in kind of a slightly different industry that people watching might not have kind of considered uses a lot of technology. In it. So really, really interesting. So yeah, if you've got any questions at all for Soumya, please do get them in the chat and we will answer as many of those webinar. Handing over next to Marcus to hear about your journey, please.
Hi, my name's Marcus, and I'm basically an older, balder Soumya. So I started in my software job when I left university, and I went to work for a steelworks, not a bank. And they put me in front of this green screen with no windows or anything, just text. And I didn't know what I was looking at. And this was the entry point into the IBM mainframe. And you may have heard of what the mainframe is. If you want to know more about the mainframe, and honestly, it's really cool, just go into YouTube and type in IBM mainframe or Z17, and there are some videos there which will blow your mind. So what is the mainframe? Let me talk about the mainframe first. The mainframe is an expensive computer. It costs about £1 million starting off, and it's built for lots and lots and lots of transactions, lots of processes running at the same time. So most really big companies have one. If you ever popped into a Next shop, or if you've ever gone to Tesco, if you've ever gone into a bank like Deutsche Bank, Lloyd's, HSBC, Halifax, what else have we got? Barclays. They all have a mainframe to run all of their transactions. So if you see something on the internet that you want to buy and you pay for it with a credit card, or your mum or dad pays for it with the credit card, you have used a mainframe. Mainframes can process 100,000 individual transactions per second. That's how fast they are, and how once you have a really fat, big mainframe. So on the top right-hand corner is me actually hugging a mainframe. That's my friend Julia. We actually run a podcast together, talking about the databases that we run on the mainframe. Then the next one down is me and Julia again with the inside of a mainframe. That's not fully stacked. It's just a couple of boxes inside, but they're really, really powerful. Excuse me. So how did I get into this? Well, yeah, I started this job as a mainframe programmer, and it was interesting. I actually got to meet the people who used my programs. I went down into the steelworks and watched the people make the steel and cut it and roll it. And then in the corner of their in the corner of their factory was a little green screen which were running my programs, and I was so chuffed. I then learned about databases and more about the actual mainframe and what it could do. And then I left programming to go into systems administration. And that was really cool. So I was actually building the software stacks that our end users would use. After a while, I left there and actually went to work for a bank. So I was at a bank for a long time, looking after their databases and gaining experience. So when you've got like 100,000 transactions per second running, you need some pretty big databases and pretty fast databases. So you really need to know programming languages like C, Assembler, COBOL, and SQL. SQL is what I used an awful lot. That's the language that you use to access a database. You can find courses on that online as well. So I got to work on the platform that keeps the world running. That was really exciting. And after a while, I left that job, and now I'm back as a developer again, writing software. The company I work for, we write software to help other customers run their systems faster, better, cheaper. So that's really cool. I get to travel. Well, I get to travel most of Europe. I've been to America a couple of times, but I do a lot of presenting. So at the bottom left, there's me literally the day before yesterday. I was at a conference, and I was delivering a presentation with a colleague who works for IBM. And behind him is the screen that we were demonstrating. And while I was presenting, my daughter texts me on WhatsApp and says, "Hey, how's it hanging? What you up to?" So I had to stop and then literally send that photo to her. I said, "This is what I'm doing. You're interrupting me in the middle of a presentation." But it was really light-hearted, and the people they were fun and they laughed. So, oh right, so Mia has just said that you use software from BMC in your work. That's fab. You might actually be running software that I've written. That's so cool. So yeah, I get to write presentations and deliver them. Germany, Spain, all of the Scandinavian countries. It's just so much fun. Next year, I'm hoping to go to Finland and Poland and Portugal. Maybe cross fingers, I might be able to go to India. So once you've stepped into this software career, honestly, you can have so much fun. The work is really interesting. asking customers, how can I help you solve your problems? Or fixing bugs. And yeah, it's just really cool. That's me.
Amazing. Thank you, Mark. It's really cool to hear about kind of what software you're writing and how far and wide it gets used. Like Sumia said, they're using it there. And yeah, I think the thing that I think is really cool about software and technology in general is that yes, you're working in technology, but you get to work essentially in every single different industry if you really wanted to, because every
Yeah.
industry uses software, needs software. So whatever it is you're kind of into, whether it's it is finance or whether it's sport or whether it's entertainment or whatever it is you're into, all of those industries need software. So if these are skills that you have, something you're interested in, and you've got a kind of another interest, it's a really great way to kind of combine those, I think.
And for background stuff, if you're interested in what I do in the background, I have 3 daughters and a dog, and that consumes all of my time.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much, Marcus. So, I mean, this is linked up perfectly. And we've got kind of the person making the software, someone using the software. So we're kind of seeing different sides to these careers, which is great. So don't forget any questions you've got for any of our ambassadors, particularly Sumya and Marcus, who we've heard from so far. Do get those into the chat. But finally, I will pass over to Sam to hear about your career, please.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm Sam Brown, and I'm a Director of Engineering, and I work for a company called JD Power. Like both people before, I've basically, my background is software development. So I started off as a junior analyst programmer back in the day, working on a 4GL type language, which was really writing software for an insurance company. I learned everything. So I didn't just write code. I also project managed projects. So that's where you are given a budget and you have to work with different people in the business and also with developers to deliver the changes or a new piece of software within that within a timeline. So I did that. I also have done a bit of testing. So when you've built your software, you then have to make sure that it is fit for purpose. And in fact, as a tester, your role is to break it. And the more you break it, the more you can make your developers or software engineers annoyed, which is great fun. And so I did a little bit of that. I also then learned about how to deploy the software. So once you've built it, you have to then actually put it on even like a mainframe or servers. And I learned how to do deployments. And also, as part of all of this, you've got to document. So you create user guides and also that everyone knows how to use your systems. So I've done everything. I've also done architecture. So I've actually designed how we're going to build it. So as Samir mentioned, you can you have your user interface. You have to design it and say how that works. And also I've done a bit of requirements gathering. So you meet the business and they say, you know, I want put a button here on the left-hand side. I want a big screen. So all of those different things. So I've done all of those. And I started working for an insurance company, learning all the different roles as a junior analyst programmer. And then I left there and I went to work for a company called Securical Cash Services, which is about money. So that was, they gathered money and count it. And I actually went and saw them counting the money and had a lot of security because you know, made sure that you couldn't take the money that you were counting, so you had to leave everything in a locker and everything like that. But we wrote applications to help them to count that money. And again, I did all sorts of different roles. And learned lots of different technology. So my background technology is .NET, and the 4GL language is similar to .NET. It was called Uniface, but it was more of a sort of a coding, whereas .NET you can create more Uniface. Screens, and they've got different languages. So I started off with that, then moved into .NET. I learned a language called BizTalk, which is more of a backend type language that you use to drag and drop things in, so that, and you connect them together and it gathers the data, and then you can put it into a database like what Marcus mentioned. And usually when I went and joined a company, they would ask me to learn a technology in a space of a month, so that I could help fix a bug or do a piece of write a piece of software. So my background was really learning whatever technology the company needed at that time. And I left Securicor and went to Sky. So I worked for Sky Television, which was really exciting. I was a broadcast producer, they called it. Sound really fancy, but another fancy name for writing code. And one of the things, one of my proud moments was I had to build an application that was used in the cricket, so that they could keep the scores, and that was a little ticker at the bottom of the screen. Also, I had to write a piece of software which they used in the when they did the elections. And so when they were talking about the elections and gathering all the numbers together and all of that, they used an application that I had to build, which I had a very short period of time. I think it was like 2 months. And when the application broke, which it did on the day, I didn't have the luxury of being able to go away and fix it. I had to fix it on the fly. And that was quite exciting and stressful at the same time. And I ended up having to work through the night, and while the election was going on. So that I did that, and I worked for them for about 5 late years. And then I left there, and I went into rubbish. So I went and worked for a company called Veolia, and I worked as a software developer there, and that was writing software that collected and all information about rubbish, recycling, and I even went to the recycling plant, which was really, really, really cool. But that was really the first time that I had to make a choice, because I was also a team lead at that point, and I had to make a choice on whether I wanted to lead people to all the stuff that I had a great time doing. And I absolutely love software. I love building things. I love creating applications, or people will give an idea and then building it is a really great thing. But I had to make a choice. Do I really want to stay building and getting really into the detail, or do I want to help people to do that? And so I had a first taste of that when I worked for Veolia, where I managed people as a team lead. So I still was writing code and still having to get design and still doing architecture, but then I had to also manage a team. That was my first experience. And then I left there and went and worked for a law firm, various different law firms as a team lead. But then after about 5 to 7 years managing people and also writing code and software, I then left to the current role that I'm in now, and went into management. So this was working for AutoVista previously as a development manager, and there I managed people. I got promoted after a year to a head of, and I moved into a centralized team, and that meant managing even bigger numbers of people. So before that, I had about a small team of about 10 people, and I went from 10 people to about 70 people. And one of the great things with doing that role and now doing this role, which now with Power, is that I manage people all over the globe. So global company, and my teams are based in 20 different countries in Europe. So I've been to Spain, Finland, Germany, Austria, Australia as well. I have a team in Australia, and I get them, and they now do the work. They do the writing the code, they do the testing. We have business analysts, we have architectures. We even have other roles that aren't normally would be done by multiple people. Release managers. So a release manager will take that software that's been built and work with different developers and different people in the infrastructure team and actually release the software. And they do that on a monthly or a weekly basis. I have technical delivery managers that now manage the projects. I don't have to worry about managing the projects. They do that for me. And with one of the things with all of these is that security is a big thing. And so we work really closely with our security department to make sure that our software is not and so we keep our software updated. So I do all of that, which means I'm in a lot of meetings, talking to different people about lots of different things. I still get to design systems in the way that people will talk to me about a system and I validate whether it's still fit for purpose. I still get to understand requirements, so I don't write them anymore. I have the business analysts do that, but I will validate that. And sometimes when things are really on the wire, I might still do a little bit of coding. So that's really good. And that's me. What I like to do in my spare time is I love to travel. So not only do I travel for work, I also travel for pleasure. I like to also go to the gym. So that's me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sam. Really cool to hear about your journey and how your roles have kind of changed and developed and grown over the years. And I think really interesting to hear about the vast kind of range of different roles and kind of skills you've used, whether that's kind of doing the technical side of things, whether that's managing people, talking to customers. So yeah, really interesting to hear about that and the sort of different roles that work within your teams as well. And thank you. You perfectly illustrated what I was saying before about, software. It kind of applies to every single industry. So I think you mentioned rubbish, you mentioned TV, the elections, sport. So yeah, I think that kind of highlights even more kind of how broad the industries and jobs and companies that you might be able to work for are. And I don't know if you spotted in the chat, Sam, but Marcus has used some of your software as well. So you all kind of link up really nicely there, which is very, very cool. So yeah, thank you all so much for sharing your journeys. I'm going to stop sharing the screen now. If you are watching and you've got any questions, do get them in the chat. But otherwise, I'll start asking you all some questions to find out a little bit more about you and your jobs in software. I think my first question would be, you've kind of talked to us about your journeys and kind of how you got started, but I'm really interested to know if there was anything in particular that kind of inspired you to go down the software route in comparison to kind of other options that you might have had, whether it was a specific thing that happened or a specific person. Sumya, can I pass over to you first?
Sure. So what inspired me to get into software? I think when I was in school, I hadn't really made up my mind yet. I kind of used to think, do I want to be a doctor? Do I want to be an engineer? And I didn't even know what kind of an engineer. I think I had a phase where I really, really wanted to be an aerospace or aeronautics engineer and work for NASA. And it's so funny that now I remember and I know nothing about rockets at all. But yeah, So I went to school in India, and in most of the schools there, computer science is a mandatory subject. So in fact, we started to tinker around with code from the age of 8, which was in grade 3. So I definitely used to enjoy my computer classes a lot, and we tried a lot of things. We used to build websites in HTML, and we used to write these small programs, and I think we also had some knowledge about databases, etc. So we kind of started having a good foundation from a very young age. And when it was time for me to kind of pick my subjects, which would decide what career I go into, what I would study at uni in grade 11 and 12, I picked computer science as my elective subject. And that is where we primarily did C++ and a bit of Python, and I absolutely enjoyed it. So I think that was probably where I figured out I do have an interest in this area. So maybe computer science is a subject that I should study. So I went for it. I came to the UK for my university, picked computer science, and I'm really glad that I did.
Brilliant. I guess we're glad as well, because it's so lovely to speak to you and hear about your journeys and yeah, how you got there. So it's interesting, you kind of shifted your plans a little bit. You kind of had an idea of what you wanted to do, but yeah, once you started kind of getting into that coding side of things, you thought, this could be something that I'm good at and that I would enjoy, which is brilliant. Marcus, what about you? Did you have anything else that kind of inspired you to go down this route?
Yeah, well, so back in a long time ago, when I was a teenager in school, computer games were all the rage, and we were swapping games. We had computers like Dragon 32, Atari ST, Amiga 500, Commodore 64. You might have seen those in museums. But for me growing up, it was every kid had one, something like this, and we were swapping games, and I like to know how these games worked. And so what do I need to do to build my own? Because I like building stuff and tinkering. So that got me into programming, and I started to write my own games on the Dragon that I had. And then I got an Amiga 500, and I thought, all right, how do I get to program this? And so I learnt a little bit of C, the programming language, and worked out how to write C. I got books on how to write C for the Amiga, and then the rest is history. I thought, great, I'll do this in university.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So again, kind of, it's something that you were enjoying kind of in your spare time, I guess. And you kind of taught yourself those skills. And similar to Simia, I guess, you kind of realized that it was something that you were good at and that you enjoyed doing, which is brilliant. And Sam, what about you? Was it a similar story for you, or did you have any other people or things that kind of inspired you to get into software?
And I think it was very similar. I studied at school. Absolutely loved it. In fact, I had 3 jobs I wanted to do at the time, but it was computing, software development, and then I wanted to be a teacher, and then the last was a forensic scientist. I managed to do 2 out of the 3, so complaining. But yeah, I've always loved software development, and I realized that actually it was a skilled role, and so for me, I could, as long as I was good at it, they would have to look at me as a developer and not as a female or as a black woman. So I also chose it for that reason.
Brilliant. I absolutely love that. So you kind of found something that you were like, I'm really good at this. I know I've got the skills. I know I deserve to be here. So I'm going to kind of go for it. And it looks like it's really paid off because you've done so well in your career and you're kind of at the top of your game now, which is amazing. So love that. I guess kind of a follow-up question to what I've just asked you all. For young people that are kind of sitting there and thinking, yeah, I do quite like coding. I do quite like the idea of working in software. Is there any kind of advice you can give them? Anything you wish that you had done a little bit more of when you were younger? Any kind of particular languages you think they should start looking into, or anything like that? Simi, we'll start with you.
Right. So very quickly, of course, in the interest of time as well, if there could be a piece of advice, I think first, starting off with, if you're wondering which language you could start with, and when Marcus was talking, I realized I didn't mention which languages do I code in. So I started with Java, but currently I'm working with Python because we are doing a lot of work with AI. And my personal opinion is Python, I think, is a very good language to begin with. And the reasons for that are Python has a simpler syntax, which means that the way it is written is quite easy to understand. So I think for a beginner, it's very easy to pick up. And also, Python is a language that has libraries. So libraries are kind of, say, it's kind of a subset of that programming language itself, but you get a bunch of functions and commands which could help you work in a very specific area. And I think Python is definitely a great language given if you're also looking to learn more about AI and build something in the future. So you already have that foundation. And this kind of fits in with the second piece of advice that I wanted to give is that you don't necessarily have to study computer science to become a software engineer. I had a lot of friends at university who studied subjects like physics or chemistry, and because at the time they hadn't made up their mind whether they wanted to go into software engineering or they would like to study something like biology or chemistry, etc., and then work in research. So if you haven't made up your mind yet, um, you can still study programming, and because it is a different skill set which actually will be used in a lot if you go on to study something else as well. So I know my friends who did finance or who studied things like economics, or even a friend who did geography. They needed to build models and things in Python. So eventually, even though they never studied computer science, they had to pick up programming as a subject at university so that they could go on and it could actually help them with their research as well. So even if you decide not to become a software engineer, I think programming would be an excellent skill set to have, and it could open a lot more doors than you possibly know of at the moment.
Brilliant. I think that's really, really good advice. So if you're sat and you're thinking, yeah, it sounds kind of interesting. I like the sound of, working in lots of different industries and these people's jobs sound cool. Then I like the idea of travel, but I'm not sure. There's other things that I'm interested in, like some of you were saying in science or geography or whatever else. Have a try. Have a go at kind of learning some programming languages, build some stuff. If you decide it's not for you, if you don't enjoy it and it's not the thing that you're really good at, doesn't really matter. You've kind of to skill different avenues, or you might find you're great at it and you do go down the software route, or you go into something else that does use those programming skills. So amazing advice there. Thank you, Simia. What about you, Marcus? Any kind of advice for young people wanting to go down the software route?
Yeah, what she said.
Perfect.
No,
Perfect.
basically, what I haven't said was since like 2016, I've been volunteering with STEM ambassadors, teaching coding to local junior schools and with Code Club. So in about 2.5 hours, I'll be going to the school that my wife teaches at, and I'll be running a lunchtime coding club. So we start off with Scratch and we build games or like interactive stuff. Then we move on to Python. And Python, as Sumia said, is a really good language to start learning with because the syntax is quite simple to begin with. It's very easy to learn, but it's very difficult to master because there are so many libraries that you can use and so many things you can do with it. If I can like break the law a little bit, I've actually used ChatGPT or Claude to write some Python programs for me and then explain to me what they're doing. And that is really useful way of learning a programming language because you actually get to run it and play with it and to see, okay, now what does this do and how does it work? And it actually tells you, well, this does blah, blah, blah. And I find it really useful and very productive.
Absolutely. I think with AI, I think you kind of touched on it a bit, Samir, when you were talking about your role and how you're using AI a little bit more. If you're using it sensibly and you're kind of using it to kind of check things, help you out with things, be a bit more efficient with coding, I think that's absolutely fine as long as you're kind of being sensible with it. And the thing is with AI, especially with coding, you've still got to give it the information. You kind of need to know the stuff and know what you're asking it. So it still needs that kind of human interaction and that creativity from you. It can't give you kind of all the answers with nothing. So if you're using it as a tool to kind of support you. And I guess, yeah, if you're starting out with learning these coding languages, it can be a really, really useful tool. It's kind of like having a teacher in your back pocket that can help you and show you where you've gone wrong and why things are broken, etc. Brilliant. Sumi, you've popped a fun fact in the chat there. So even companies now let software engineers use AI tools like ChatGPT and Gemini to try out new things and build things faster. I think most companies, whether you're working in technology and software in my company, where I'm working with kind of students and teachers and things like that, we've started using Copilot. So most companies are now adapting to AI and kind of developing policies to allow people to use it in a responsible way. Perfect. And we'll finish up. We've got a couple of minutes left. So we'll finish with you, Sam. Any last wise words of wisdom for anyone that might be interested in going down the software route?
I mean, what I would say is that software doesn't mean just writing code. There are so many different roles that you can do. Yes, you need to be able to write code. We need to build something, but there are lots of other roles that are just as important. And I've mentioned a few testers. We need cloud engineers. We need release managers, business analysts, project managers. So there are a variety of roles that you can do within the software industry, and you could start off doing coding and realize it's not for you. But if you've got great communication skills, then you could be a business analyst or a project manager. So my advice would be to, if you're not sure what you want to do, but you're really interested in software, to look at what there are lots of other roles, and there are new roles being created, every day. Especially with AI coming, we need people to validate what the AI is saying. So that's a new role in itself. So lots of opportunities, I would say.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sam. And yeah, really, we've spoken a lot about coding. And like Sumi said, give it a try, learn some code. If you like it, great. If you don't, doesn't mean you're not going to still go into kind of a software job or a technology job, because the technology industry, as Sam says, needs people with all different skills. Yeah, talking to people, working with people, doing the money side of things, doing the number side of things. So whatever skills you have and what you're interested in, I guess it's about keeping open-minded, giving things a try, trying different things out, kind of seeing where you end up a little bit, and not worrying if you don't have it all kind of worked out now. And as Sumi said in the chat, even as a software engineer, you will be required to double up as a good coder and a good communicator a lot of the time. It's no good kind of building something amazing in code that no one else can kind of understand. You need to be able to kind of explain that to other people. Marcus, go for it.
Yeah. I just wanted to add to that. You can train people to program in Python, in C, in COBOL or Java or anything, but you can't train character. So if you want to step out into a career in software engineering, you can learn the tools as you go on. But first of all, be nice. Don't be daft. Don't be silly. Don't be too proud. Just never stop learning. It's like I'm in my 50s and I'm learning stuff every day. So never stop learning, have that curiosity thing going on inside you. It's like, how does this work? How can I be a better person? How can I be a better coder? We could train you coding, but you've got to have that internal good character first.
Brilliant. I think that is kind of sums it all up, and I think that's a brilliant place to kind of end on. If you're like finding out how things work, you like learning, this is a perfect kind of career and a perfect industry for you to get into. And I think ending on don't be silly, don't be daft, be a nice person is perfect advice to end on for anyone, whatever you decide to go into in the future. Thank you all so much for sharing your journeys. You've all been absolutely amazing. You're all very, very inspiring, and you've got very, very excited about your roles and how they're changing and what these things might look like in the future. Everyone watching, I hope you enjoyed it. I know some of you kind of dropped in and out and joined a little bit later, so I will share a recording with you so that you can watch it back so you haven't missed anything after this. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining. We hope you found it interesting and you enjoyed hearing from our ambassadors. And do keep your eyes peeled. We'll have loads more ambassadors joining us for webinars in the new year. So keep posted, and hopefully we'll see some of those for ambassadors. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Fridays, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.